Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Doug Show Live. Today, Shawna Newman from Skip Blast is joining me today. So, Shawna, how's it going?
Pretty. How about you?
Doing awesome. And you've been on the show so many times, so I think people kind of know you. You blog over at Skip Blast, and if you can give like a quick little intro, the kind of stuff you're working on these days. And of course, I'll preface and say
Mhm.
today we're talking local brand and newsletter.
Mhm.
You have revenue coming in, and this is sort of like a part two of the conversation that we had before. But who are you, Shauna, if no one or if people haven't heard of you before?
Yeah, I guess it's best to say I'm a reformed niche site person and website flipper. These days, I still have a portfolio of sites, but I'm doing local newsletters. I'm doing some KDP stuff with Amazon eBooks because my email newsletter list for Skip Blast wanted me to do that, so I'm trying that out. I'm doing e-commerce. Basically, I'm doing a little bit of everything, but at the end of the day, it's just stuff that I'm having fun doing. So,
Okay. Yeah. And I think for the ones of us that we're doing it right, I'll just I'll make the judgment that you and I are doing things right. We had a brand, and we're content creators in some capacity, and we most of us started blogging, and then most of us do have a YouTube channel and a newsletter and a media company overall. And
mhm.
now we have the skills to do other stuff since the industry changed so much. So that's kind of what you're doing, and
Yeah.
you're listening to your newsletter subscribers, which people should definitely check out. I'm a subscriber myself, and you're essentially running like small experiments, little
Yeah.
case studies, and you're trying to learn things. You're testing tools and all that kind of stuff, and you share it in your newsletter, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, this is one of those things, and this is the local brand. Can you talk about the overall platform that you set up, sort of the different pieces and the beginning and kind of where you are now? So, kind of take us on the journey, and then we'll talk about the recent developments in the last couple of weeks here.
Yeah, sure. So late last year, I actually discovered Ryan on Twitter, who runs the Naptown Scoop, which is a local newsletter for Annapolis. Dude's just killing it in that space. I think the last time I saw, he's making like 350,000 a year just from that local newsletter. So then I spent like 4 months like doing a deep dive into that industry, checking out all the players in it, seeing like, is this a business model that I could move into? So I started moving into that space in March of this year for where I live here in Vegas. So I launched my local newsletter specifically targeting basically the suburb that I live in, which has a population of around 120,000. And we started out doing the newsletter 5 times a week, so Monday through Friday, every day we send out a newsletter. We really were trying to focus on helping people discover things about where they live that they maybe don't know about. So, did you know that this place does, music trivia every Wednesday? Did you know that this place has live music every Thursday? Kind of things like that. Hey, there's a new festival happening, downtown in this area. So that's really what we focus on. So it's not like crime, no politics, no like generic ass news stories. Formula One comes to Vegas, so lately we've had a lot of news stories in our newsletter talking about that. More focused though on like how it affects locals. Like you can't drive anywhere near the Strip here in Vegas. They started that construction actually back in July. So that's kind of the things that we target. And obviously, the revenue model with that is to focus on selling ad space in the newsletter to local businesses. Um, so the last time we talked, I was at about 3,300 subscribers. I'd been running Facebook ads to get all those subscribers. All in, it was costing me just under $1 per subscriber because I was trying to be hyper niche down with just the people who live in my area. Not too long after our last conversation, I actually turned off those Facebook ads because I had spent about 3,500 all in getting everything set up between the ads and Beehive monthly fees, things like that. So I really wanted to focus more on the organic channels that I had found prior to that, which I've had a lot of success with Facebook groups. I picked up an abandoned subreddit for my local area, so I'm using that to drive traffic as well. And so I wanted to just test a few other things. So I haven't been spending any more money on leads. Also, recently, I would say for the past couple of months, I've been really focused on trying to bring in advertisers. That has been much, much harder than I expected. And I'm in this private newsletter group, which we can talk about later on. And there's tons of people in there all over, not even just all over the US, but all over the world who are doing this in their communities. And I feel like something is going on very unique to my area because I'm not getting the type of traction or responses from businesses in Vegas like everyone else. So far to date, I've only managed to sell one ad spot in the local newsletter. And we actually switched from 5 days a week to 2 days a week just because we were having such a problem getting these advertisers. And so we were like, really got to figure out what is going on, what is unique in this market that's making this such a challenge. So we're going to take away, 3 days a week where we were spending that on curating information, writing the newsletter, and use that to really do a deep dive into what we think is going on. So anyways, so I sold the first ad just recently. She bought that through the end of January. So it was a pretty lengthy ad, but I had to give her a discount because she only was going to advertise if she was going to get offered a discount. So that's where I'm at with it right now. And I've been like so frustrated with the responses from local businesses because they're very interested here in having us promote them, but they don't want to pay for it. They're like, yeah, please promote me. No, I don't want to pay. I'm looking for a free opportunity. And I'm like, why do you think I'm doing this, right? So I think it was like a week ago, I was on Reddit, on the entrepreneur subreddit, seeing people talking about running a local cleaning business, like a remote cleaning business. I know this was like really popular about 6 years ago on Reddit. And I was just like, you know what? Why am I not doing something like this? I can start my own quote unquote remote cleaning business here in Vegas. I already have an audience. I will promote it to them. If someone actually tries to book a cleaning, then I'll deal with, finding the cleaners, getting the insurance and things like that. Because with Skip Blast, I'm already a registered business with a valid business license in Vegas. So I could add that to like a thing that Skip Blast does. So I started that last week. I spun up a website, $10 to get a domain, cadence theme. They have these great AI templates. So I have a cleaning business website here for Vegas. I actually just got a SIM card in the mail yesterday. So I'm about to actually have a local phone number for it. And we actually got an inquiry yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Like, there was no phone number on the website or anything. So we haven't actually booked any cleans yet, but it seems like it might actually work.
Gotcha. Okay. Tons of stuff here.
Yeah, sorry, I was just like going on there, right?
Yeah, no, this is perfect. Like it lays out the full foundation of what we want to dig into. So I'll go back to the beginning and we'll kind of meander around. So you said you were sending out the newsletter 5 times a week.
Yep.
And I was like, that seems like kind of a lot, especially like, at some point you only had like 200 subscribers and you were sending 5 per week. And you cut that down. So the cadence was a little bit too much. The other thing that I know, and from sending newsletters, is not everyone opens every email, and then they sometimes don't read it, even if they do open it. So I've gone back and like literally, I'm like, I think this email was actually decent, or I know it was good because I have the stats. I'll send it again 6 months later or 2 years later, and people are like, oh, I remember this when you wrote it the first time, or they never saw it before. So have you actually gone back and start sending some of the old stuff?
Well, unlike ConvertKit, Beehive, which is what I'm using right now, doesn't have the option to just resend to people who didn't open. But I feel like even if they did, that would only be relevant for us for weekends because we're sending things that are timely, like, there's an art festival tonight or there's live music here tonight. So it wouldn't really be relevant to resend that kind of stuff out. But on Fridays, we do a newsletter that's everything going on for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Got it. Okay. So it's pretty timely. It's not, there's very few evergreen things.
Yeah.
Why don't you send evergreen stuff? Like, for example, around here, there's like museums and stuff. So maybe we don't put events. There's permanent whatevers. So you could say, there's like a monument over here. You can go walk these trails and there's little placards or whatever. So do you have some evergreen stuff that you can publish?
We've not done anything like that. There are people running local newsletters who do like themed days. So maybe like on Tuesdays, they send you a story focused on a local business. And maybe on Wednesdays, they send you a story that's focused on maybe a cool like museum. And then Thursdays could be something like history for the area. We started out more aligned with what Ryan's doing with Naptown Scoop, which is big focus on live music, big focus on events, big focus on what's going on right now. Now, was that a mistake? It's hard to say, right? Because we still don't really know what's going on with this market. CityCast is actually a pretty big player in local newsletters. They're in a lot of cities in the US, and they are here in Vegas. And sometimes they send out just a little bit of local events with like like basically, have you been to this nearby ghost town? Here's what you need to know about it. So I've seen that kind of stuff that they're doing, and I don't know how well it does for them. One thing that I did actually look up about a month ago when I was like so frustrated about the advertising here is I was like, I'm going to go look at every local newsletter that CityCast has because they very rarely have paid sponsors also for the Vegas one. And so I was like, is this a Vegas problem? So I went through all of their local newsletters. Like I said, they're all over the US. And Vegas is like one of 3 markets they're in where they very rarely have local sponsors. So that kind of makes me think maybe this is a Vegas thing. And in CityCast, of course, they're targeting the entire city where I'm focused on just an area. And actually about 2 weeks ago, we decided we're going to now expand our focus and do the entire west side of Vegas. So that's everything west of I-15. So that's the area north of us, south of us, and just a little bit east of us. So.
And with the advertiser that did start working with you, can you share like what business it was? Like, why do you think that one worked, and how did that relationship start?
Yeah, she is an insurance sales agent, and so she wanted to do the ad in time for open enrollment for people for their Medicare and their health insurance and stuff like that. It's really odd though because I can't actually track how well it's doing for her on my end because she doesn't have a website. She only has a phone number in it. So I honestly I can't see, like I can ask her, of course, after we've done this for a few weeks, because we only just got her last week. So I can ask her, but it's not something that I can track on my end to see how it's going. Now, before we were getting advertisers, I was promoting friends' e-commerce stores, our own e-commerce stores, because we have several, as well as it's actually a great place for me to drop in like interesting stories that just take people back to my Raptive site. So then I kind of doing like ad arbitrage with that. So we do get a pretty decent amount of clicks to things that we put in there, and friends whose e-commerce stores that I put in there have made sales from it. But there's still really no way for me to know how many phone calls she's actually getting. So
yeah, that's a little rough.
yeah.
And I'm trying to think, like, if I get an email with a phone number in it, how likely am I to call? But I guess if I'm like thinking about open enrollment, like that is a thing that's a huge pain in the ass. So like you kind of know you have to sit down and call people and try to figure stuff out overall. Yeah. Okay, interesting. So 3,300 subs. Can you share the rate that you're charging, or if you don't want to, that's okay. But I'm just curious from.
So originally, when I was first starting trying to get advertisers, I was basically thinking what was everyone else charging, and I based it on what they were doing. So I was trying to charge $80 for our very top spot. So it, we'll say at the top, like sponsored by or together with, and then the logo, and then we do our little intro for the newsletter. And then right before that is the very first ad. So they would get that top placement as well as that first spot. So I was charging $80. And I like read all this stuff saying, well, local businesses, they're used to paying for, local newsletter rates. I'm sorry, not newsletter, newspaper rates, things like Valpak. So they're used to paying a lot. So it shouldn't be a problem to say $80 to reach 3,300 people's inboxes. Nobody wanted that, right? And so I was like, man, what are we going to do? So then we decided, let's just offer it for $30 and see if we get any bites. And so that's what she's paying, but I gave her a 20% discount because she was booking it out so far. Okay. So all in, I think I'm going to bring in $750, which, my wife, she's the one who's doing most of the writing for the newsletter. She's a writer, by profession. So her hourly rate for this is just atrocious. And so she is very unhappy with me and my wild ideas for businesses. So,
Yeah. Well, soon she's going to be out there with a mop cleaning stuff right. up.
Yeah. Let's not tell her that.
Yeah. Interesting. So quick note, quick audio thing. So Paul in the chat is saying that I am quiet. So people, let me know out there. Can you hear me okay, Shawna?
Yeah, it sounds fine for me.
Okay. So a little behind the scenes. So typically, like after we record this, and if I publish it as a podcast, I would like level things a little bit more. It's a little bit tough. And if I will actually change the settings here, but Paul was asking like, oh, usually the audio is really good and blah, blah, blah. But it looks, I'm pretty sure it's my normal. See, and this is where live streams kind of go off the rails. I'm like trying to troubleshoot. I'll quickly look at something here and hopefully it won't destroy the whole thing. Sometimes if you go and mess with settings, it makes things even worse. But I will just attempt it. Okay. It might be a little bit louder now, but I don't know. All right. I did what I could for now, Paul. Thanks for letting me know. Okay. So you are thinking that maybe the little micro area that you were working with is not attractive to advertisers, or the businesses are not used to charging or having to pay for the advertising. So you're broadening the scope a little bit. Have you observed in the bigger geographic area that there are advertisers in those areas?
Well, I haven't had enough time to determine that yet. I also haven't had enough time yet to determine the quality of those subscribers. So the area that I was initially targeting where I live is the most affluent area in all of Vegas. Like it's where Tom Brady lives. It's where Mark Wahlberg lives. Like it's like high end houses. I'm just a poser renting a house here. So I don't want anybody to think I'm like, celebrity level rich. But it's also a lot of retirees. Like there's an area that's like a sub part of this suburb that's one of those like Margaritaville style retirement communities, like they have their own restaurants in there, their own theater and stuff like that.
Those are nice. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I'm kind of wondering if there's too many retirees in the area. So the area that's right north of us is not like they're like the newest part of the city, right? So they're building all up against the mountains in the northwest. And the area below us is a bit more working class, but I saw recently that it has the highest percentage of college educated people in the city. So like I'm hoping that by targeting slightly different demographic areas, I'll see both a higher quality of subscribers as well as advertisers, because I feel like most of our subscribers skew too old here in this area where I live, where the retirees and the super rich celebrity people. A lot of influencers also live in this area. So basically, I feel like I thought I was doing the right thing by picking the most affluent area, and I may have shot myself in the foot because they're not the right kind of affluent people, if that makes sense.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, I'm so curious how it's going to work out, because it does make sense. Like I remember saying this like in the past, although it was much, much dumber back then. But when we had, say, Amazon change our commission rates, or something in the market changed on the revenue side, I was like, well, if we have eyeballs, if we have an email list, if people are going to our websites, like we should be able to monetize it some way. We should be able to figure it out. But that's not always the case, because there are a lot of moving parts and there are a lot of variables. And then, I mean, really, when you have to go out, and I was talking to Brooks, and maybe a couple other people replied back via email. And Brooks Conkle has the Mobile Rundown. And basically it's like, it's a pain in the butt to have to work with advertisers all the time, because there's churn. People want to test it out or something. And it's like, well, you don't want to have to renegotiate this deal every time. And you basically have to go on Main Street and make the deals and tell people like, hey, like, here's the reach, like, here's success stories, like, here's why it's so valuable to get in front of my audience. But like when you're starting out, like you don't have that critical mass. So J. Paul Hendricks, Jason says in the chat, getting critical mass with a local site like this should generate consistent visit and brand searches, improve authority for Google. Can you then mix in some non-local specific affiliate content?
I actually have a local site for the newsletter. I seem to be one of the only people in this paid newsletter group that I'm in that's doing this. It just made sense to me because of my background, obviously.
Yeah.
But like I'm targeting things that no one else is targeting because I first started out on so like hyper niche down by the area. So like one of the first posts I did was everywhere you can play pickleball in the area, right? Obviously, instantly number one because nobody else is writing about it. So a lot of the subscribers actually find our newsletter through organic search for things like that. And one thing I like to do with posts like that is say at the bottom of that post, and actually 6 a.m. City, who's a huge player in local newsletters here in the US, they do this too, which is where I got it from. Put a section at the very bottom that says, if you need new pickleball shoes, we recommend these. If you need a new paddle, we recommend these. So I'm doing affiliate content like that at the bottom of every article where I can. I'm actually working on one about local coffee shops, but I've already got the bottom where I'm saying, here's a fancy espresso machine you can buy to make it at home, things like that. Obviously, those are going to be mostly Amazon links, except for, other programs that I'm in that I can promote as well. We actually get about 5,000 monthly page views on the local site. So I kind of think our local site is doing a little better than our newsletter. I've also put some Amazon links in the newsletter, like for Prime Days and things like that, and made some sales. So one of the things I've been thinking about actually recently was, should we lean in heavier on the local site first, keep the newsletter as a secondary thing just the 2 days a week, see what we can do? Because honestly, we're halfway to Mediavine journey. So we could kind of work this a different way initially until we get the traction that I want, because I don't want to continue relying on these old methods that are clearly no longer working. But at the same time, I know that local sites are doing better in the search results these days. So
interesting. Yeah, we'll come right back to that. Wolin asks in the chat, sorry I missed this one earlier, do you have competition from local news media?
So there is, the Review Journal is the main newspaper here in Vegas. They actually, some of them have signed up for our newsletter and they've taken things that we've gotten the scoop on, and they are so catty. They've actually mentioned in there, so I think they called it a local neighborhood newsletter. That's how they refer to us when they got our scoop. Like, they're so catty. There's also an independent newspaper here that covers the entire state. I think it's called the Nevada Independent. And CityCast is here. They do all of Vegas. I don't know of any other newsletters, and I did a lot of searching that target Vegas. There is one that targets like North Vegas and the Arts District, and they focus on just events. They're called The List. But there doesn't seem to be anyone yet in this area doing what we are doing. And honestly, the newspapers aren't really covering the stuff from us, which is evidenced by them taking our scoops. So.
Right. So back to the local website, and actually just like using your SEO skills and like, you're like, we could have ad revenue, we can have affiliate revenue, your way around that stuff. There's less competition because it's a local, set of keywords overall. Right. So to me, it does, as someone with zero experience, I've done no research, but externally. So let me tell you what to do. I have great advice for you. Let me mansplain this. No, it makes sense to do what you're doing, to have like the leads come in through the website, because at least you're not paying $1 per lead.
Yeah.
In the newsletter group that you're in, are most people getting leads from ads? Is that the idea?
I think it's about half and half. Some people are doing Facebook ads. Other people are entirely focused on organic. So Reddit, Facebook groups, Instagram. There's actually several people, one guy in particular, who are just killing it with doing reels on Instagram. The guy's name is Jas, and he runs, I think it's called Winnipeg Digest up in Canada. He's got insane numbers of followers on social, and he actually sells to advertisers combo packages. So he'll do reels for them as well as let them do stuff in the newsletter. And that some other people have tried that. It seems to be working really well. That's not something I've actually tried yet, probably because I have my hands in too many cookie jars doing too many different things. But it is a strategy that people could do to get subscribers.
Okay. I realized I used a term maybe you didn't understand. It's mansplain. Okay. And no, I'm just kidding. People have probably seen that meme out there. Okay. Quick sponsor break for Linkify. They have gotten me a really killer link over on Ahrefs. I can't remember. Did I show you this one, Shawna, before?
No.
So Linkify, they do digital PR. Connectively is what they work through now. That's the old Haro. And they got a link for me at Ahrefs on, let's see, real estate SEO. And I can share the link so people can go check it out. I got to make sure I'm sharing this properly. Hold on. Make sure all the other windows are closed. All right, we're going to see how this works. I'm not sure what's going to share. It could be okay. Okay, that worked. All right, yeah, so I have a little quote in here, and all I did was fill out like a very simple, like an intake form, and I have a lot of information on my about page. So they hooked it up pretty quickly, and I'm just scrolling endlessly here. I should just search, but there's a lot of big hitters on here. And then I'm on here. So SEO expert and educator is what they noted me as. So in this little section here, something about mobile friendly, load fast. So anyway, they do a great job over there at Linkify. You could save 10% using coupon code Doug, and they are in the middle of a campaign. So this is the link that they've gotten so far, but it takes a little while because I have to, make sure the right request comes through. So yeah, let's keep going with the local business. So we talked about the newsletter, and you were like, okay, I'm going to try to run a business where you essentially outsource. And I've heard this business model a couple times. Some people do moving companies or something where they could just sort of hire contractors to do the work locally, and they're just organizing and getting the leads. Is that the general idea? Can you explain what you're thinking of doing?
Yeah, that's essentially it. Like I said, I saw this first on Reddit several years ago, and it was being coined as a remote cleaning service. So basically, side hustle bros are picking a city and starting a business there, and then hiring people to go do the cleaning. And they don't even live there; they never go there and stuff like that. But I thought I can do that here because I live here, so I know all the areas and stuff like that. And one thing I saw on Reddit actually was to specialize in a particular type of cleaning. So I went and I looked to see what types of cleaning services offer, because I've never hired a cleaner, so I didn't know. And their highest ticket item were deep cleans and move in, move out cleans. And I was like, in the event that someone calls out or I have to do the clean myself, worst case scenario, I do not want to be doing a deep clean. So we did the website specialized on move in and move out cleans, because you can charge at least $300 for those, just for a half a day. So that's the website I spun up. Like I said, it was just an AI template from Cadence, where I just filled in a little bit of information. The buttons don't work on the page. I think there's only 2 pages on there. There's probably some lorem ipsum text left on there. No phone number yet. I'm doing that today. And like I said, we already had someone send us an email yesterday asking. So pretty crazy.
Pretty cool. Where have you seen, or actually, because people have talked about this and they're like, look how well we can execute this remotely. We have great systems.
Right.
We have software now. What are some of the success stories? What do they look like? You could generalize and make one up. You don't have to say anything that's a true exact story, but what kind of success have people seen out there?
One thing I saw on Reddit was someone who within 9 months was over 100,000 profit. There was also a husband and wife team that I saw on Reddit where they were 6 figures within a year. Then there was a guy who seemed to be in Kansas City area where he started it out himself, where he was actually having to do some of the cleans because he had lost his job, was why he had started the agency that he was doing. And he actually did live there. And then he was able to not have to get another job, he could live on about $4,000 a month, and that was his profit. So that's what he's been doing. I think it said he's been doing it for 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So I would assume on the low end, maybe around 3,000 to 5,000. High end, you're looking at 6-figure years.
Gotcha.
So
Okay. And that makes total sense to me. I mean, if you look around, the one that comes to mind for the cleaning aspect is just Airbnb cleaning, because I have a bunch of friends that they struggle to have cleaners that do a good, consistent job. And yeah, it's a constant headache apparently. And they obviously have pretty high turnover. So it's like potentially multiple times a week, a cleaner has to be in there. So that is, I don't know. I was going to say, I don't know how the margins are for that. Cause when I talk to them, they're like, these people, they didn't show up, or like they didn't do as good of a job. And I'm like, if you just pay more, like, and get a higher quality person, like, are you getting the bottom of the barrel, blah, blah, blah. And it's unclear to me, cause obviously their cash flow has to work, but I don't know if they're cheaping out on who they're hiring or what. Cause in the back of my head, I'm like, I mean, I don't want to like clean houses or anything, but I'm like, if you paid me enough money, I could do like some stuff. And I'm depending on people's situation. Yeah. Anyway, the point is Airbnb could be a good one on the higher end. But it depends on how much profit margin they have to work with there. So question from Woland again. How do you engage with the newsletter audience? Do you have polls, quizzes, et cetera in the newsletter, or what's the content like?
We actually started doing polls early on, and the Vegas audience seems to be unique in this. When I've discussed it with people in my newsletter group that I'm in, they will actually respond telling us how much they hate polls. Like, they feel very strongly about it. So, and we tried to run a poll just the other day, and basically one person, like, that's not even like a half a percentage of the total subscribers, right? One person responded. And like, it's also really interesting with Vegas. This area seems to not want to pay for anything. And it's not just the advertisers. So a big thing in this group that I'm in that people are doing to monetize is making local discount cards. So you go around to 10 businesses and say, we're putting together this discount card for our subscribers. We're only going to sell a limited amount. Would you be willing to offer 10% off if someone presents this in the next 12 months? So we said we were going to do that. We pitched it to the audience. One person was interested. Like, why? Because we told them they'd have to pay $25 to get it, right? Like, that's the whole way that's the way to monetize it. And like, you're going to save more than the $25, but like, they're just not interested. So, yeah.
You need to go to like, whatever, like a baseball team fundraiser or whatever. And be like, hey, here's this. You guys sell it for $50. Like, go to your uncle. We just had a niece and nephew hit us up for money, and we're like, well, actually, I'll save that for, it's private. I'll tell you later. But anyway, we had some relatives ask, when your relatives ask, it's like, do I got to do this? All right. Quick request for the folks that are on. Thanks for joining us today. I have been doing live streams for the last several weeks, most of the time on the same day, but I have some stuff traveling tomorrow. I got a flight, so I'm unable to do it. But if you have the opportunity to hit the thumbs up to let YouTube know that you like the video, that'll be great. It helps out. And people can leave a comment too if you're watching it later. All right. So I'm curious about this newsletter group. It sounds like it's a good place to get ideas, and here's what's working in other places. Can you talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, I actually found the guy who started it on Twitter. If I remember correctly, his Twitter handle is Mikey Pesto. But if anybody wants to get in touch with him, they can just hit me up on Twitter and I'll connect you. His name is Michael Kaufman. He lives up in the Catskills, and he runs a newsletter for that area. He's crushing. He's making like $8,000 a month and signing up local businesses, doing local events and things like that. And this group that he started, I believe he's calling it the Newsletter Club. So we actually have some people in there who aren't doing local newsletters, but it's probably 95% local newsletters. When I was one of the first people who joined, and it was only $99 to join, I have no idea if he's still offering people in at that price or not. I believe there's around maybe 30 to 50 people in it right now. I seem to be the only chick in there, which seems to be the norm whenever I join things like this. But what's great about it is, we're all working in different locations. So like nobody is super protective about what they're doing.
Right.
Everyone is sharing everything. People are sharing their contract templates for signing up advertisers. They're sharing, this type of ad worked best for me on Facebook. This is exactly how I make my reels, to sell, get new subscribers. So it has been the best $99 I probably spent to learn anything, because we're all focused on the same goals. Everyone is ready to help everyone else. And, there's people in there who are just getting started, people who haven't even started yet, as well as these people who are just crushing it. Like the guy who's up in Winnipeg, he's crushing, making sales to, advertisers like almost every day. It's crazy.
Wow.
So it's really a great place to learn, as well as to like bounce ideas off of people. I've been telling them about the struggle that I'm having here in Vegas. And so they've been giving me, like maybe try this, maybe try that. It's also been great for monetization ideas, other ways you can make money from your newsletter other than just advertisers, because people are trying different things. There's actually a guy in there. I think he's also in Alabama. I think he's in Huntsville. I think he actually runs another newsletter group with Brooks Conkle. But did you see that porch pumpkins thing that went viral a few weeks ago?
No.
So it's this woman in Dallas who started a business, I think he said last year, putting the pumpkins up, and she's like crushing it with income. He saw that. And so he just launched a porch pumpkins service in his area and pitched it to his newsletters. I haven't heard yet if he's made any sales. But like, that's the kind of like things that are going on with people in there. Like everyone's having great ideas and just sharing them for everyone to use, for their own areas. So I highly recommend it if anyone is looking to join a community like that.
It's really interesting too. You had the idea for the home cleaning stuff, and there's all these like different local businesses. But the thing is, like, if you happen to enjoy like documenting the stuff in your community, maybe you would just kind of do this for fun. It gives you an excuse to like go out and try new restaurants and check out the happy hour and like just document things and think about it a little bit more than just like going to a restaurant, eating and then leaving. And you're potentially helping the businesses out quite a bit. Yeah. But the side effect is like, if you were obsessed with Halloween, like I think I saw the headline of what this lady was doing. But basically, like, if you have a little idea, you could test it in like 2 seconds without running ads. Like you have your own platform and you don't even need that many people. Like, I don't do it too often, but I do some paid photography gigs, some portrait sessions and stuff just for friends. But potentially, like if I wanted to do that a little bit more, if I had a local newsletter, I could just say, hey, I'm doing portraits at this place, bring cash. It'll be, I'll give you like 5 pictures or whatever, where I could just set up a package. And in 2 months, when I'm interested in something else, I could be like, I'm making a couple briskets here. I'm selling it for like $20 a pound and like, it'll be gone. So sign up. So you could do whatever you want if you have the audience right there. And it's just kind of interesting because like, otherwise people don't care about you or your business. And locally, like you have to like really reach out and like figure out how to get in front of an audience if you have nothing. So it's an interesting way. Do you have any other cool examples of different monetization things that people have done?
Yeah, I think it's actually the same guy. He is getting ready to put on a bingo night at a local, I think it was a local bar. Yeah. And the monetization strategy he used was to partner with the bar, and then he's selling tickets to it. The guy who runs the group, who has the Catskills newsletter, he started out doing events like that. And now he's transitioned because he has like this history of successful events where he gets paid to like host an event and promote it in the newsletter. And like, that's all he has to do. I think he also got some free nights at a local inn for an event there. Like they did like a 4th of July thing too, like events like that. One guy like basically drove a bunch of people to a business's event I think he said they took them from like 150 people who showed up the previous week to over 1,000. And then he used that to pitch them, let's do an event together, so he could get paid that way. So that's one of the more interesting ideas that I've seen them do. Several people are now just trying to do the discount cards. And then there's just me, who's running into a brick wall every time I try one of their ideas. So, yeah.
Well, you gave me a little bit of an idea. So the person that drove traffic and proved results for free, it sounds like.
Yeah. Yep.
Have you been able to drive traffic where you're like, I sent whatever, I did this, look the results you got, and there's documented proof, right? And you're like, I'm going to send it to your competitors if you don't work with me, right? Like, have you tried that?
Yeah, so there's a guy who actually runs all of the trivia nights at a particular bar on this side of town. And so we were just putting them in as events that you could go to for free. And then he reached out to us and said, just wanted to thank you guys for always promoting this. You really increased the traffic that we get to these. Now we're completely full. And I'm getting ready to launch music bingo on Wednesdays at the same place. Can you promote it? And so I thought, man, this will be a great way to show him that he can advertise. So we did it for free. Nothing. He's not interested in paying for anything. We basically made his first music bingo a success, and he doesn't want to pay. So we've stopped promoting any of his events because I'm catty also. So.
Well, that's kind of what, I was going to say, like, that's kind of what you have to do. Like if someone doesn't see, and that's the weird thing. I feel like in our, I guess, former yet current industry of like niche sites, like we're all marketers and we're competitive. And I've definitely felt like a lot of people, I'm like, hey, will you promote this thing? And they're like, no, I don't want to promote your course. And I'm like, well, like people that buy other courses, like we're not really competition. We're like, we could help each other out. Like you and I have worked together like pretty much the whole time we've known each other. Right.
Yeah.
And, there's a handful of us. I think the ones that are still around are less competitive, and the people that are dicks, like they kind of fall off naturally. But in the sort of personal finance space, this other area that I'm working in, they are way less competitive. It's like, let's all help each other out. We'll be on each other's shows. Let's cross promote, all that kind of stuff. And it's interesting that local guy, because obviously you're not competing with him, but you can drive people to other events instead of his very slowly. So have you started doing that?
Yeah. Now we're promoting the other trivia nights only. So
Yeah, that's ridiculous. It's so short-sighted, especially in a local community where like he could work on something in the future that's a little bigger that he would want some help with. And I assume you're not going to do it.
Not for free, for sure.
It'll have an extra cost on there. Okay. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Where do you see it going? It sounds like you're in a good spot in that you have a little playground to test things, but you have been getting less traction than you expected. So where do you see it going in the next few months now that you have like one advertiser checking things out?
Yeah, so I feel like we're kind of at a crossroads. Like, do we keep, banging our head against the wall trying to figure this out after we've already invested all this money, we're negative, we're in the negative? Or is Vegas just not a spot where this is going to work? And again, I go back to CityCast rarely having actual sponsors. And so that leaves our options of continuing to sink money into this to see if we can get it to working. It's been 7 months now, 7 months, Or do we pivot and say, okay, well, we go to Phoenix a lot. It's only about 4 hours away. Do we see if we can make this work in Phoenix, or is Phoenix going to have the same demographic issues that Vegas has? I don't really know. There, I don't really know if. I also wonder if part of it with Vegas is all of these casinos. They all have their own events too. Like, I don't know. I just don't know. I wish I could really figure out what it is about the demographics here as to why it's not working. I know it's a solid business model. I knew it when I started. All of these other people in that newsletter group that I'm in showing that they are also being successful. Like, it is a solid business model. So what is the disconnect here? We get tons of emails from people who are on our list telling us how much they love it. So we have a quality product. What is wrong with the market fit? And that's something that we have to figure out. And I was talking to my wife the other day, and she said, well, we have this woman who's paid us through January, the end of January. And she thinks maybe we need to figure it out by then or abandon it and jump ship.
Okay.
And for me, it's difficult because, I'm used to, putting in, up to 18 months on a site to get it successful before I can flip it. And this is a whole new ballgame for me. Like, I don't really know, when do you throw in the towel on something like this, or is it not throwing in the towel, but pivoting, like I said earlier, focusing on the website aspect of it, but knowing that there is the risk that Google's going to fuck that too. So I don't know.
It's not an if, it's a when, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Very interesting. Okay, so I have a couple thoughts around this. I started my podcast, Ranking Revolution, and I'm like,
Right.
This should be a solid business model. Like, I know the podcasting side. I think newsletters are a more proven area, but
Right.
I've arrived at a point where I'm like, you know what? Sunk cost. When I have had something work pretty well, it worked pretty well from the beginning. And
Right.
even though maybe I had to work on it for a long time, it was more of a compounding effect of like growth versus me like trying to get that initial traction. So very slowly, I'm making the decision to just scrap it. I'm not going to throw away the content, but I think the grand conclusion is like I'm comfortable moving on from the sunk cost. And even though, like you said, we were used to working on something for a year
Yeah.
or two before we saw a lot of traction, all the things that I worked on that are successful, most of them are not successful, by the way, but like the 2 or 3 things that have worked, they worked pretty quick. So question number 1, is that what you have seen too, where like the things that have worked the best, like your top 2 to 3 successes, did they work pretty quickly?
Yeah.
So I wonder, there's no perfect answer, right? But it's just like, when it worked, and I didn't have to struggle. It was kind of fun. I didn't hit periods where I'm like, should I throw this whole thing away? And I feel like when I ask myself that question, like the answer is probably yeah, like go ahead and scrap it. So like I said, it took me a little while to arrive at it, but I think, it's a sunk cost at this point. So can you talk about your decision-making process? Like what KPIs are you going to look at in January? Are you going to determine it ahead of time where you're like, if we're not at this KPI, whatever metrics, we're closing it down? What are you going to do?
I think it's going to be a matter of, are we getting new advertisers? Because we're still at this like cheap rate of just $30 for top line. And our very lowest ad spot in the newsletter is only $15 per issue. So it's not like it's a big risk for these local companies to advertise. So I think for us, it's going to be a matter of, as we expand into the area that's a little north and a little south of us and just a little bit to the east, can we find advertisers who will fill those spots? If we cannot do that by the end of January, do we either go all in on the local website, trying to do that with ads, and then maybe, because I'm also offering right now through my ad packages, you can also package that with an ad on the website, which has more traffic. Nobody's been interested in that either. So do we go all in on that if there's not enough revenue? Do we pivot to like Phoenix or another area? Or do we just focus on other stuff? Because we were doing this 5 days a week, since late April, we've neglected faceless YouTube channels. We've neglected e-commerce sites. We've neglected all these other things that would probably be revenue positive by now. So, yeah. And like, I'm still really interested in local newsletters because it is a solid business model.
Yeah, it is a solid business model. So what keeps you, why are you still pushing this?
Because it should work, man. It should work. I don't know why it's not fucking working.
Yeah,
So,
no. And no, I mean, I know the feeling, like I said, I'm struggling with the same thing. And I, roughly the same time frame, I started maybe in like January, February, like pulling the podcast stuff together. And, it's all mini skills that I've put together before, similar to you. And you're like, okay, like with my previous knowledge and the resource of the group that you're in, like, you're like, this should work. And yeah, I'm just like, hey, you know what? This is different than I thought. And I'm like, I'm bailing. And you know what? I'm horrible because in multiple times in my life, I've like tried to talk people out of doing something, which, I mean, it can be useful, but just a weird story in high school. I think it was 10th grade. My friend and I, we played basketball. We tried out for the team in like 8th grade and 9th grade and did make the team. We were like the last cut, like we were close, but not quite. I wasn't that good. I have a lazy streak going up way back. So I just didn't put in the time and, probably could have made it if I worked harder and all that. But he was like, hey, Doug, are you trying out for basketball for the JV team? And I was like, I don't think so. Probably, like, if I actually made the team, I would never play. I'd be like the worst person on the team, so I'd just be on the bench. So I was like, I'm not even going to try. And I was like, you probably shouldn't try either. Like, we're about the same. And yeah, so he was like, you know what, you're right. And he didn't try out either. So, yeah, I'm like, wouldn't it be better to like not do anything? So anyway, the thing is, all right, you mentioned the opportunity cost, and that's what people, so I'm talking about decision making, and I'm not telling you what to do, but like, it's the opportunity cost of like continuing to work on the newsletter, which is all a sunk cost, even the time that your wife put into it, versus working on something else where you think probably, this should be profitable. So people should look at that when they're looking at decision making. It's hard for you to imagine like what else you might be doing, but you have to compare like what you're working on and the time you're putting in to the other things that you can be doing instead. So I'm sure you and your wife will have healthy debates about it since she's doing all the writing for it. So, okay, very good. Let's, anything else with the local newsletter before we start winding down?
I don't think so.
Okay. So you have Growth Cupid out there, and I know I'll give you a few minutes to talk about that, and you could talk about I think you have a Pinterest package, which is excellent, and share what you got going on with that.
Yeah, we actually redid our packages about a month ago based on client feedback. People, can you do this for me? Can you not do this? And so we kind of like reworked things, which actually resulted in us lowering the price of those because what we're doing now is a little different. We now have a package that starts at 2 pins per day. So it's like ultra cheap. I think it's $2.99 a month is all it is. Before we even start doing any pinning for you, we give you a 6-month strategy. So we go through your site, see how it is for Pinterest traffic, because we get some clients where I'm just like, your content will do fine on Pinterest, but if you did topics on this, and this, then we can skyrocket your growth. So that's the kind of strategy blueprint that we're giving people. Basically, in terms of if you really want to scale this thing, here's what you can do, and we can help you do that. Or take the strategy, do it yourself. It doesn't matter because we'll do what you paid us for now, but you're going to get this to take with you as well. We are doing custom pen designs, up to 3 pen designs that we will rotate through each month. So we're not doing any of the cookie cutter, AI templated pens because we've seen a lot of difference in terms of performance over the long haul, as well as Pinterest had its own kind of HCU a few months back, and newer accounts that were using that templated stuff seemed to get hit, whereas the other accounts that had more custom, designs seem to continue scaling. So our lowest package is 2 pins a month. And we recommend you do it at least 3 months because Pinterest is a long lead platform. However, the clients who have taken our suggestions in that blueprint and made new content, and so then we change out and focus on that newer content, they're seeing faster traction. Because, we look at Pinterest Trends, which is the tool that they provide you, so that we can project if you do this, this, and this, then by X, you're going to see this type of increase in traffic. So that's been like a really popular package for us lately. I would say probably 80% of our orders in the past few months have been for Pinterest. And we are consistently seeing that work really well for our clients. We also just recently refined our process for getting press links. We're not sticking exclusively to Hero. There's other sources that you can get it from as well, using AI. So it took a lot of working on prompting so we can use a custom GPT to basically sort the available opportunities to identify the ones that work the best, write the answers with AI. They pass the little, human or robot test. We're seeing amazing results for clients with that too. And we're charging, I think we're only charging $2.99 a month for that right now, guaranteeing 3 links a month. So those are our 2 most popular things right now.
That's dramatically cheaper than the sponsor for today, Linkify, by the way.
I think it's cheaper than most places, and it's all because we can do it with AI. So basically one person can just do that and run with it.
Gotcha. What kind of links do you get? Is it the same caliber of like high?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking
level?
like HubSpot, Business Insider.
Damn.
I have a list on our sales page of some of the best links we got in Q3.
Gotcha.
So they're
amazing.
they're the same kind of big players because we do get some direct through Connectively.
I gotcha. Okay. And you could save 10% at Growth Cupid with the coupon code Doug, DOUG, save 10% out there. So yeah, a lot of good products. And yeah, that link building package, can people white label that if they happen to?
We send out a report once a month. And
okay.
Yeah.
How long does it take to get rolling with that? Like if somebody signed up, like how quick can they expect their first few links?
It still takes at least a couple of weeks, but by using the AI to identify the things, because we put in like the person's like profile for their company and stuff, and it's actually identifying opportunities that the humans I've hired in the past to do this would skip on, I think. So we are able to pitch more answers than we were when we were an all-human team. So basically that velocity is resulting in faster links for us.
Humans are horrible. Yeah.
I know, right? Yeah. We also do social first content. We've done that for some of our Pinterest clients, but we also do it for people who are growing their Facebook pages. Because, social first content is much different than what we were used to do on content sites. A lot of it's very image heavy and things like that.
So what is social first?
Well, like a lot of the stuff that we've done for people on Facebook have been listicle type articles. Like we had a client who had a houseplant website. So we did things like, the X types of X plant, things like that. You won't believe, what these cactuses look like when they bloom. They're just pictures. And the same type of content we also do sometimes for Pinterest, because obviously Pinterest is a very image-focused platform. Pinterest is more, though, like ideas-focused. So it's different from getting people to stop scrolling on Facebook. So it might be something like 25 black and pink room decor ideas, things like that.
Okay, gotcha.
So, yeah.
All right, very good. And I think my link, Jason let me know that my link in the description is off, so I'll fix that up, but just use coupon code Doug for 10%.
Yeah. Doug's coupon code will make sure that it gets to him even if you land on the Growth Cupid site from search. So yeah.
It's even worse than that. I sent like a dead link. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I'll fix it up so people watch it later. We'll be okay. Yeah. And of course, you're on X occasionally, so we got the link there. So, all right, that's cool. Everything is in the description here. Thanks, Shawna. Any parting words before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. I guess if anybody wants to see about joining that newsletter group I'm in, just hit me up and I'll connect you with Michael on getting into that.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. And I don't know what I'm doing next week, next Tuesday. I should be around. I'll schedule something. I think it's been good to have guests on, so I just don't talk to myself for 1 hour, which, that happens sometimes. But tune in for next week and check out all of Shawna's stuff. Thanks.
Thanks.